Hey, this is Design for Disruption, the videocast that helps you tell your story of change. Today's topic I want to go into is about creating content for thought leadership. Now, as a creative director of Hypnotic, I work with a lot of companies that need help with their content. And specifically, they say, I have no idea what kind of content I need to create. And today I'm going to give you one tip that's going to solve that. The derivative benefits of doing content marketing are so huge that companies are very sold on it, and there's not a lot of convincing there. But in going about it, there's the typical approach of strategy and process, and what are we doing, and how does this fit into our brand, and blah blah blah. And so one of the first conversations that you have with the company is what's our content strategy? How are we going to, what's our voice going to be like on these different channels? How many times are we going to publish? What are we going to talk about? How do we generate these ideas? And then worse, there's the, oh my God, everyone's using artificial intelligence now, and maybe we should just have an AI presence, and they'll do our conversations and talk with our customers and, chat with them or whatnot. Granted, it's not going to be a video thing, but, the bots are pretty effective. And then there's this reaction of, oh no, but those still need a strategy. No, okay, they're getting so off the point. It was funny. I was working with this one company, and traditional agency, huge, and I was one of their first digital, really heavy digital employees, and I wanted to create content so badly, and I was just stuck in this traditional setting, and no one knew anything about social media and how to do it and everything. And I said, hey, how about I start creating some content for the agency? And then you say, Paulo, we've had conversations about that, and we just decided that we don't do enough interesting things here to really generate content. I mean, come on, just the idiocy of that statement. And this is like high-powered executives with so many reasons to say no and to fail because they just have zero understanding of this one concept. And I want to hit it with you right now. The content you share is what makes you an expert. And the content that makes you an expert is the content you learn. I want to say that again because it's so important. The content you share is what makes you an expert, but the content that makes you an expert is what you learn, okay? No one doing anything disruptive just kind of came out and goes like, hey, I've did everything, and I'm just going to jump online, and I'm just going to talk to people about what I already know. That's not disruption. That's just repeating what everyone else already knows. The people that are the experts or whatnot, guess what? They're continuous learners. And when they started off, they weren't experts. Guess what? They sucked. They got online and they wanted to learn something about something, and they had no idea, no clue how to do this. And you know what they did? They started problem solving. They started finding content. They started saying, I need to solve my own problems here. What do I do this? And along the way, they started to share the learning. And guess what? That journey, that thing that they were learning along the way, that became the content. And it had so much value in it in terms of what they were talking about that suddenly they became experts. And at some point they transitioned, they transformed, and guess what? They started to know so many of these different things that they started talking about things that were deeper in the conversation that you only could get to once you started to go beyond the basics of just figuring out how to get the shit done. And they started innovating, and suddenly these people are speaking because they have all the knowledge and they know about the journey of where this is all supposed to go. And they became so knowledgeable about the subject, but they knew about the journey, and they knew about what people in this space really needed to learn, and they could share those insights. And then along the ways, they were interviewing people that were helping them learn more about that subject. Wasn't an expert in we needed to learn something about Google Analytics. So guess what? We went and found the leading expert, and we interviewed that person. And suddenly that much expertise in terms of Google Analytics came as a result of doing the podcast and the content that this person was doing just to learn how to do better analytics. It's crazy. And so everyone's sitting there trying to figure out, like, we're an industry leader, and what do we do and everything. You know what? An industry leader doesn't mean that you just know everything and you stop. An industry leader means is that you are learning and you are going beyond what someone else is willing to learn. And, it was interesting. True story. I had this friend, and he was literally living in practically a studio apartment for years. One bedroom, okay? And every single day he had a laptop and he had a table right next to his refrigerator. And he would get on that computer and he would start researching things about social media. The guy was just into it and he loved social. And so much so that the Facebook pages first came out, and he was starting to make a living by doing Facebook pages for the companies around him. He had a pizza place downstairs, and he did their Facebook page, and next thing you know, he's getting free pizza. And then he had this healthy juice place, and next thing you know, they're giving him cards to help for doing his Facebook page. I mean, he really don't know much about that, but he was feeding himself because he needed to live, and he's in this he's got a lot of time on his hands. He's in this this one bedroom apartment. And, and I go to visit him, and I see what he's doing, and, and it's great because he's just like, hey, this meeting of the minds, this Paula, at that time, I'm in the agencies, I'm doing the cool, digital work and social and that, and we just have this kind of conversation and whatnot. And he's talking about all these things that he's doing and interesting. And I go, man, you need to be on Twitter. And I go, I'm trying to get a Twitter following, and I think I struggled. I started to do, the Twitter. I maybe got like a couple hundred people. I totally sucked at Twitter, and I just sort of gave up. And so he's like, that's interesting, right? And so next thing you know, he started to do Twitter. And along the way, he was kind of like trying to figure out something that he could do in order to generate content. So one of the things that he would do was he would find all these different things that he was interested in terms of all these different companies doing social media. So he started to create this top 10 list. And religiously every week, he would take 10 of the best social media case studies that he would find on the web, and he would put them in his list, and he would talk about it. And it was just that simple. There was nothing more to it than that, other than this top 10 weekly list of things that he found online that were cool case studies for social media. And you know what happened? It was crazy. It disappeared. I hadn't talked with them. 6 months later, 30,000 followers. And I was like, holy shit, what did you do? And he said, Paulo, he says, I have a Facebook group, and I have the same amount of followers there. And you know what? They get on, and it wasn't a group, it was a page at that time, but let's split the difference. They get on and they start talking about these stories. And next thing you know, like the people that are talking about these stories, they're contributing and they're telling me about some of these case studies. And so suddenly it's not me researching all these things and putting them out. I'm just going in through my own Facebook page and cherry picking the best ones from them and popping them into this top 10 list. And then I'm having discussions with all these people, and it's even furthering my knowledge. I'm just like, oh my God, this is brilliant. A year later or so, I see him at one of the foremost prestigious social media conferences with the top expert in all of digital. Like, this guy is, I don't want to name names, screw him. And, he's got his picture, he's got his arm around him, and they're just buddies, just, talking about social media. And then he formed his company, and he had people working for him, and the next thing you know, he's doing Facebook pages. People are consulting him for information about how to properly set up content strategies and for their business or whatnot. He's being brought in by particular agencies to actually do the content portion of the pitch, because traditional agencies at that time had no idea how to do that sort of thing, but they wanted a big picture and everyone wanted to be integrated. And it was like, boom, just success after success after success. But what started him was one tactic, 10 names, 10 case studies, one list, going out a week, and that fueled everything. And it was all based on the fact that he was doing this because he was interested, and he just kept on researching that stuff. Now, the point that I wanted to get to is the content that you share is what makes you the expert. So the content that makes you an expert is that content that you learn. My friend, and even myself right now, I suck at this. I am not good at this. This is really hard, and it takes a considerable amount of practice and energy just getting this going. But I'm learning, and he was learning, and we started to share that learning, and suddenly you just start to see the success. And whether you're a solopreneur or you're a big business, you have to put in a habit and a practice of doing something that is giving you knowledge that you are learning about, that is making you better at your space and what you do. And you have to develop that singular tactic of what your output is, whether that's a video cast, that's a blog, that is a white paper, that is whatever you're going to put out, that is going to generate content, that's going to facilitate discussion and to get people interested in you. And you got to tell that into a story and make it in a way that people are interested in listening to. And you do that, and guess what? You do not need a content strategy. You do not need AI bots. You do not need sitting around going, how do we express ourselves on this platform, and who's our demographic, and what's our persona, and how does this fit into this, and should we be targeting this, and that sort of thing. No, man. You just go out with the learnings, you talk, and you learn more from different experts, and you become more knowledgeable on that subject until you are the smartest person in the game on that subject. And along the way, you are just sharing that knowledge with everyone, and you are just taking them right along the journey. And guess what? You got fans, you got followers, and you got one hell of a story. Cheers.